Hello everyone and welcome back. In the last video we learned about the modules, and in this video we are going to discover structs. So structs are very important concept in Move, and as we said, we store our data with structs. By default, not have abilities. So abilities mean that special permissions that are given to structs. So first of all, if you look at this example here, our basic profile struct, which has a name and age, it doesn't have any abilities. That means that we cannot drop this at the end of the function. So we cannot release the memory that has been occupied by this struct at the end of the function. Nor we can copy this struct, or we cannot store this in global storage. For these operations, we need some abilities. Now, first of all, let's look at this basic struct. Again, we are creating structs with this struct keyword, followed by the name of the struct. We have this name here, which is a vector of U8. So U8 means unsigned integer, which is 8-bit. So unsigned integers are either 0 or positive integers. They cannot be negative. We have U8, U16, U32, U64, U128, and 256. If I have U8 here, I can have values 2 to the power of 8 minus 1. So we have minus 1 value because we are using that 1 for the 0. So I can have 0 to 255 with U8. So if you use unsigned integers, then you can actually modify, or let's say optimize, the usage of the storage of your smart contract. So if I need just 0 to 255 as numbers, then I don't need to say U32, because when I say U32, then it's going to use more storage. We are also going to be using more gas fees. So if we optimize our code, then it's going to be more efficient and it's going to use less gas fees. This vector is like the array in other programming languages, so we can store values here with this vector. In many cases, we will be using vector of U8 as the strings, because each letter in a string, or let's say each character in a string, has a U8 representation. So if we store them on, let's say, a vector, then we can have a string. So vector is like this. So this is a U8 vector. We have 1, 45, 2, 6, 4, and so on. It goes like this. This is a vector representation. It holds multiple values. Next, we have the age, which is again U8, because I don't think that anyone who's older than 255 years old is going to be using this smart contract. Again, this is a basic struct representation. We have the struct and we have the values that it's holding. Let's look at this core struct, which has the copy ability. This means that I can copy this struct. I can create copies of this struct. If I don't have the copy ability, I cannot copy this struct. I cannot say, okay, I have this struct score, and now I want to create a copy of this struct which I'm going to hold and manipulate. I cannot do that. For this, I need to have the copy ability. The next one is the drop. So the drop gives us the ability to actually delete this struct. So let's say I have this temporary flag, and at the end of the function I want to delete this. If I don't have this drop ability, I cannot release this memory. So for that reason, we have this drop ability. As you can see, on top of the unsigned integers and the strings that we have seen so far, we have the Boolean type in Move. We also have the type address and signer. You will see later. So we are not going to go into detail with the data types, but while we use them, we are going to introduce different type of data. Now I have the storable data, which has the store keyword. This means that I can store this struct in the global storage, but I cannot directly store this in the global storage because it does not have the keyword key. So what I can do is, if I have a struct which is stored in the global storage that has the keyword key, then I can store this inside of that struct. So imagine that you have a struct, let's say it's a notebook and it has notes. So if this notebook struct has key and you want to store each data this notebook holds, then we can say each node in the notebook has store and the notebook has key. And now, as you can see, we have this key, and this means that I can use this struct as the enter point for the global storage, so it will work as the key. It's just like in the databases. In the databases, we have IDs, so we can find the necessary, let's say, rows with these IDs. And here we are using key. We can store this user account directly on the global storage. If I have another field, let's say another field, not field, but if I can type it field, I can say its type of storable data. Because storable data has stored here, we will be able to store this inside the global storage, which we put inside this struct in the global storage, which has key. Since this will be the entry point for the global storage, and we will be able to store this directly in the global storage, we will be able to store this storable data in this struct so it can rest in the global storage. We have talked about different abilities we can have, but we can actually have abilities, couple or multiple abilities at the same time. So this struct can be stored on the global storage, it can be dropped, and it can be copied. And finally, let's look at this struct with generics. So generics means that I will be using a type here, but I don't know which type it is. Then I put the type here as the T or any letter you can use, but generally T is used for these kind of situations. And then I say the item is type of T. If this is U64, the item becomes U64. If this is Boolean, then item becomes Boolean. And we will be storing this in the global storage. These are the different type of structs that we can have, and these are also the different abilities that we can have with the structs. We will see much more detail about these in the examples, but this is the general idea. We have this data that we store on the blockchain, and this data can have different permissions, which we call abilities. So some data cannot be copied, but some can be copied. Some cannot be put on the global storage, but some of them can be stored in the global storage. Sometimes we can drop them, sometimes we cannot drop them. For an example, if you have a coin, you don't want the copy ability because that would be creating more coin, or you don't want the drop ability, which would delete your coin. The idea is, let's create a struct with the base struct without abilities, and if we want abilities based on the situation that we are dealing with, we will give the abilities so that we can have a secure system of data storing on the blockchain. So again, don't worry about this too much. I know that some questions can come to the mind, but do not worry about them at the moment. If you understood this much, then it's okay. Since we will be using this in a smart contract, it's going to be easier to understand while seeing an example. Thank you very much for listening to me on this video, and I will see you on the next one.